Let's get some pre-draft intel, some direction, some guidance on what the Giants will do. Some of the great interior prospects, two-time champion for the G-Men, and really one of the good guys, man. This guy's awesome, David Diehl. What's up, Dave? How you been, buddy?
I am doing excellent, BT. Always great to talk to you. Happy Friday, my man. And as we get prepared for the draft this upcoming Thursday, you always have to remember it's not when you're drafted, it's where you're drafted.
There you go. And you would know about that. I mean, it's examples where guys are drafted high and they bust, and there's examples where guys are overlooked, a bunch of Hall of Famers, Super Bowl champions, overlooked for whatever reason, and they overachieve and they have great careers. So I'm with you. So it's a really inexact science. So let's start with a general sense of what the first three teams will do. The Jaguars, the Lions, and the Texans, because there's two schools of thought, which will obviously impact the Giants. If there's a run of defenders, which is what I think will happen, then the best offensive lineman very well might be there for the Giants. If there's a run of O-linemen to start, then it might be the best defensive player for the Giants. What do you think the top three picks look like? How does it impact the Giants?
Well, obviously, it definitely impacts the Giants if all of a sudden, if we're hearing these edge rushers turn into an offensive tackle, and now you're making adjustments at number 5. Obviously, everybody talks about the critical picks in this draft. Everybody talks about the Carolina Panthers at number 6, and obviously the Texans, are they going to stay at 3? But you and I both know the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 1 are going to be the pivotal draft pick, and that's going to change the dynamic of every pick from that point forward.
Yep.
Because let's say Jacksonville, if they were smart and go down the road and stay with developing Trevor Lawrence, who they've gotten this entire franchise around and now went and gotten Doug Peterson with, they need another offensive tackle. And Evan Neal is their best offensive tackle in the draft. He's the best pass protection left tackle in the draft. But if they go to the defensive side of the ball, we know Aiden Hutchinson is going to be an immediate difference maker opposite Josh Allen on the other side. And the strength of that football team in 2021 was the defense. So I really think it's really going to be manipulated on how Jacksonville picks that pick at number 1, because if Aiden Hutchinson's at number 2 for the Detroit Lions, we know what Dan Campbell has tried to develop in the state of Michigan and in Detroit, the foundation, the base pieces of it. He's a cultural changing piece for that team and that home piece that brings back that crowd base that Lions football teams need. So I truly think that's where the dynamic of the draft, especially in the first 10 picks, are going to change based upon what Jacksonville does and Detroit does.
Yep. No, I think that's good analysis, and I think you're on money with that. But I want to throw this wild card in here. I love him. I love to see my Jets get him, but obviously specific to the Giants, O-line or defensive end, got it. Is there a situation, though, where you can see the Giants taking Gardner with that first pick?
You know what? I could see the Giants taking Gardner with that first pick, because if you think about Wink Martindale taking over now as the defensive coordinator, he wants to be aggressive. He wants to get the quarterback off the spot. He wants to change the momentum and the tempo that you're running on the offensive side of the ball. And you've always heard what the Giants have lacked over the previous years, a pass rush. What's the best pass rush? It's having the coverage on the back end to be able to protect it. What's the best coverage? Being able to supplant a pass rush with that as well. So if Sauce Gardner's sitting there at the 5 position and that the Giants sitting there at number 7, where they could move back and get multiple picks if there's a team that's really dying to get a quarterback at that spot, if Carolina doesn't take one at 6, that is the perfect opportunity for you to maximize on the potential. And you and I both know when it comes to these picks, and we talked about it's not when you're drafted, it's where you're drafted. There are 262 lottery tickets in this. The more tickets you get, the better opportunities you have to maximize and really get the potential to hit on.
I like it. So we're talking to two-time Super Bowl champ David Diehl with us here on the Fan, Tiki, and Tierney show. And speaking of lottery tickets, I don't know, this could be an option for the Giants as well with one of those 2 top 10 picks. I'm in the school where I think it's very plausible they trade one of those picks, okay? I wouldn't trade both, obviously, but I trade one and I secure more draft equity for next season, which when I combine with my first-round pick for next season, I can move into the top 3, top 4, top 5 to get the quarterback we all think they're probably going to go up and get. Can you see the Giants trading one of those 2 top 10 picks?
I definitely could see the Giants trading those 2 top 10 picks, or definitely number 7. I don't see it happening at number 5, because if you think about the Giants and when everybody went through the first phases of round 2 and round 3 of free agency, where the Jets were able to go get C.J. Azuma, Conklin, Coleman re-signed, get Blake and Tomlinson from San Francisco. They still had $11 million left. The Giants had $738,000 totally left in the salary cap. So when you think long-term and what
Thanks,
Joe
Gettleman.
go ahead.
Thanks, Gettleman.
No, but I mean, literally, when you think about that and what Brian Daigle and Joe Shane are trying to develop long-term, because you and I both know this can't be a 2 or 3 year, well, we got here, the salary cap was in mess. You knew what you got into. This is a 2-year turning it around and making sure you get the productivity out of it. So I could see them moving out of that 7 pick. And then when you think about next year, it's not, as you said, about the free agent quarterbacks that are going to be out there. It's going to be all about the quarterbacks coming out of where else? Ohio State, and out of all the other places
and Bama,
that will allow you that flexibility to have that top spot.
Yep, and Alabama as well.
Of course.
Yeah, we know that Gettleman, he ruled the war room, and it is what it is, and the Giants are in a rough spot, but they're hitting the reset button smartly. They brought in smart people, got to reset the finances. I finally feel good about the Giants' direction, first time in a while. I think the war room will be far more collaborative than it's been the last couple of years for the G-men. Brian Daigle, I know he's the coach, but does he have a real strong voice on draft night, do you think, or no?
Well, obviously, the connection between him and Joe Shane, understanding exactly what they're looking for and identifying specifically in players since they've worked together in Buffalo, I definitely think that that's why that pairment at this point and at this juncture with the New York Giants organization, it had to change. What was working and what was done in the past didn't get the results that we needed for a Giants organization, specifically when you talk about the offensive line. So I definitely think that Brian Daigle is going to have a hand in with what's done within the draft. And there's going to be conversations not only between Brian Daigle and Joe Shane, but among the position coaches as well. I know that that's something in the previous years where position coaches were throwing a player and say, hey, coach him. And there wasn't the discussion about that player individually.
So we're talking to David Diehl, former Giant, 2 Super Bowls with us here on Tiki and Tierney Show, WFAN. All right, so Dave, listen, I've known you for a long time, so I know that you were a great high school basketball player back in the day in Chicago, nimble feet, good athlete. I don't want any dancing on this question. I want a direct answer. Do not dance. When we're sitting here next year, God willing, going into the 2023 season or draft, are Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley on this team?
I would say no. I don't think the combination of both of them will be back. The reason why I say that is number one, when it comes to Daniel Jones, we know that this is a prove-it year. They're going to surround him with an offensive line. They already have the skill position players on the outside when we know that they're going to add other pieces to it to give him every possibility to succeed in 2022 and then figure out what to do moving forward. With Saquon Barkley, we know the rookie season that he had, he produced and it was exciting. But when it comes to the running back position, we do know that those injuries pile on and it lingers, and you can get those players late in the draft. When you draft a running back in the top 5, let alone as your first overall pick, we know that the fan base was surrounded around Saquon Barkley because of the Penn State background, the East Coast background to it. And that's exciting. But down the long term, the tread on the tires, when you have your fan base done around it, when you have early production, and now all of a sudden you pay that running back, that's when those injuries start to pile up, as we've seen with Christian McCaffrey, as we've seen in the time in the Los Angeles Rams when they had their running back,
Zeke,
as we've seen across the board with Ezekiel Elliott. When you pay that running back that big-time money, it limits what you can do offensively and where you can spend it the rest of the football.
Okay, so you did answer it directly, and I knew that you would, but now let me just parse this a little bit here. If you had, of the two, what I can extrapolate based on the finances, the running back, and you're right, and the tread on the tire, if you had to pick one that you think has more of a chance to be on the team, I would think that you would say Daniel Jones. Am I right with that?
You know, you could definitely say that because the quarterback's the one with the football in his hand each and every play, and as we said, they're going to give him every opportunity to succeed. And, listen, I've spoken to David Cutcliffe, his coach from Duke. Obviously, I have a relationship with him from Eli and everything. He firmly believes in this quarterback. And when you see those highlights and those bright spots of Daniel Jones, it excites you. But it's about the best ability, its availability, and seeing it consistently. In regards to which one I would sit here and say long-term, I would sit here and say probably Daniel Jones more than Saquon Barkley, because you know that when you draft a quarterback overall, you're going to do whatever you can to keep that quarterback in your franchise long term.
Even when the regime that drafted him is no longer here?
Well, I think when you have Brian Daboll come in and completely change the dynamic of this offense, and that's going to tailor game plans specific to Daniel Jones, I think this is the testing point for 2022.
Can you explain to us why the hell Kadarius Toney is a no-show?
Well, listen, I don't go crazy about all of this off-season stuff and who showed up the first week and who didn't. Listen, I was there each and every day. I was 100% volunteer, and I say volunteer. I wasn't a casualty that was forced to be there. We as an offensive line developed our cohesiveness and all of our attitude and the type of mentality we're going to have during the football season, during that off-season. But I'm not going to lie to you. When you're a top draft pick and when there's players sitting there saying, I'm doing it all for the team, they also have a salary incentive for those workout bonuses to be there during the offseason. So even though they're sitting there saying, it's all about the team, if you weren't getting that check, I guarantee you wouldn't be 100% participant.
But still, it looks terrible, man. It's a first-year head coach, and Kadarius Toney's not there. It looks weak. It's the wrong tone.
Well, I get it, and obviously that's the one thing that you want to look for, especially out of a young player like Kadarius Toney, which we know has had off-the-field things, the stuff with wanting to be a rapper. People feel that his emotions and his love is more for that than football because of the injuries and lack of play. That's all understandable, but we also know that he's coming in with a completely fresh slate and a fresh state right now with this coaching staff. I'm sure there's been communication back and forth. Would they love to have him in the building? Of course. Everybody would love to have that. But at the same time, when it really comes down to it, it comes down to the OTAs, the mini camps, the throwing, all the drills that you do so that you're on the same time with your quarterback in the office.
Yeah, and by the way, listen, Mekhi Becton should be there as well. And I know he's expecting a child. I get that. You've got kids. Your daughter's getting big. She's getting old, by the way. My God. I mean,
no kidding.
How old is she now?
15.
Wow.
It's getting real, BT. It's getting real, my man.
I'll tell you what. I would not want to be the poor, unsuspecting chump who knocks on David Diehl's door to take his daughter out. That's not something that I would want. But so we're both dads. The point being, it's the most amazing day of your life when you become a parent. All right. So I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but I mean, here's a guy who was grossly out of shape, who has shown a propensity to heal very slowly, and who's got a ton to prove. Why is he not at the OTAs for the Jets?
Well, listen, obviously the birth of your child is something that nobody wants to miss. And I'm going to explain a great story to you here, BT. My daughter was born on December 27th, which was the Thursday before our Saturday wild card game at Philadelphia to play the Eagles, which we unfortunately lost. I can still hear David Akers' field goal with time clicking down, hit the right upright, and go in and then beat us 23-20. But it's not like I remember it like it was yesterday. But we'll move on to this. So after that, Addison was born that Thursday morning.
Okay.
And I am all of a sudden texting and sending everybody messages. I'm sitting there holding her in my arms. I get a call from Coach Coughlin. Congratulations, Addison's here. We haven't done 9 on 7 yet. Do you think you can make it back for practice? I'm literally holding my daughter in my left arm as he's asking if I can come back to do practice.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a moment that you never want to miss. But as I sit here, and I hate to tell you I told you so, BT.
Oh, here we go.
I told you about this when Becton was drafted with his weight, with the injury, with most importantly, the discipline and lack of discipline with it off the field. When you're a coach, that's the last thing that you want to worry about. Not to mention when you get injured, because you're heavy, because you have so much weight on that, it takes longer for you to come back from it. So I think we've all heard the right things come out of Mekhi Becton. He's pissed. He wants to come back with an attitude and prove it. But it's about actions now. It's not about what you say. Right now, looking at the 2022 New York Jets, I would have George Fant as the starting left tackle for the Jets.
I agree.
Period.
I agree.
Without a single question about it. If anybody understands what George Fant went through and is what he's gone through, it's me. You think about George Fant, which people forget about. He was a basketball player up until 2016 at Western Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't play offensive line. He was a tight end converted into offensive line who the Seattle Seahawks were developing and was going to replace Dwayne Brown. tears his ACL in 2017, comes back, moves from left tackle, right tackle, jumbo tight end, replaces Dwayne Brown. Finally, now when he gets to the Jets, you see that he has Pro Bowl potential if you just keep him in the same spot. So that's why I think moving forward, George Fant should be the starting left tackle of the Jets.
All right, man. Listen, good stuff. And I know we'll be talking a lot throughout the season. Hopefully me, you, Tiki, get out, play a little golf this summer. But I'm a little late, so let me bounce. I'll shoot you a text at some point. We'll get out. We'll have a couple drinks. We'll have a little fun. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Anytime, BT.
Love this guy. He is one of the good ones, man. Two-time Super Bowl champ, David Diehl.